The BMW in your neighbor's driveway is leased. The $400 sneakers on your coworker's feet went on a credit card that's still carrying a balance from Christmas. The successful cousin posting vacation photos has $312 in his checking account and a payment due on that vacation in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the guy at your gym who drives a 9-year-old Honda Civic, wears the same 5 t-shirts on rotation, and has never once mentioned his money, he has $2.3 million invested and could retire tomorrow. You cannot tell who is wealthy by looking at them. That used to be a minor observation about human psychology. In 2026, it is the single most important financial insight most Americans will never act on.
Looking poor is not about deprivation. It is not about pretending to struggle. It is a deliberate strategy used consistently by the people who actually accumulate wealth to remove the single largest expense category most households never even classify as an expense: the cost of appearing successful. This video breaks down exactly what that cost is, why it is structurally designed to increase forever, and why the people quietly building real wealth in America have made peace with looking poor while becoming rich. Data from Ramsey Solutions' study of over 10,000 American millionaires, the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finance's 2023, the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey 2025, Empower's 2025 Wealth and Lifestyle Research, and the Schwab 2025 Modern Wealth Survey. Institutional research and large sample millionaire studies, not opinion.
There's a tax in America that nobody files paperwork for, that doesn't appear on any government form, and that the average household pays more of than actual federal income tax in many cases. Financial researchers call it the status tax, the premium paid specifically for the appearance of success rather than the substance of it. Here's how it works mathematically. A base model Honda Accord and a base model BMW 3 Series provide nearly identical core functionality: reliable transportation, comparable safety ratings, similar size. The BMW costs approximately $15,000 more to purchase. It costs more in insurance because of higher repair costs. It requires premium gas. Its parts cost more when something breaks. Over a 10-year ownership period, the BMW costs approximately $28,000 more than the Honda for functionally equivalent transportation. That $28,000 is the status tax. It bought nothing except the badge on the hood.
This pattern repeats across nearly every visible spending category. Designer clothing carries markups of 300% to 1,000% over functionally equivalent unbranded items. The manufacturing cost difference is frequently under 10%. A logo on a sweatshirt can add $150 to $200 to its price, with zero change to the fabric, the stitching, or the warmth it provides. Ramsey Solutions research found that the typical American millionaire has rarely spent more than $399 on a single article of clothing in their life. Not because they cannot afford more, because they have done the math on what the additional cost actually purchases, and concluded it purchases nothing they value enough to keep paying for indefinitely. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey shows that the median American household spends approximately 4% of after-tax income on apparel and 17% on transportation. A meaningful share of both categories is not function. It is the status tax, paid monthly for decades on items that depreciate the moment they are purchased.
Looking poor works as a wealth strategy for a reason most people never consider. It removes you from a competition that has no finish line and no winner. The phenomenon researchers call the hedonic treadmill applies with brutal precision to status spending specifically. Schwab's 2025 Modern Wealth Survey found that Americans believe they need $2.3 million to be considered wealthy and $839,000 just to feel financially comfortable, numbers that rise every single year, regardless of actual economic conditions. 63% of survey respondents said it feels like it takes more money to be wealthy today than it did last year. This is not because the cost of living rose 63% worth. It is because the visible bar for what looking successful requires keeps rising, driven by social comparison that has accelerated dramatically with social media. A 2025 Goldman Sachs report explicitly cited keeping up with the Joneses as a driver of paycheck-to-paycheck living among six-figure earners.
The competition is not against your actual neighbors anymore. It is against a curated feed of people who may be more financially leveraged than you, performing success they cannot actually afford either. Looking poor exits this competition entirely.
If your financial decisions are not benchmarked against what looks impressive to strangers, the entire status tax category disappears from your budget. You are not trying to win a contest that has no endpoint. You stop competing in a race where the only prize is paying more for the same outcome. The psychological research on this is consistent. People who tie their spending decisions to external validation, what others will think when they see the purchase, report lower financial satisfaction and higher financial anxiety than people who tie spending decisions to personal utility, regardless of income level. The status purchase provides a brief social reward and a long financial obligation. The utility purchase provides neither the reward nor the obligation. It just works.
This is not theoretical. It is the most consistently documented behavioral pattern in wealth research across multiple decades and multiple independent studies. Ramsey Solutions' survey of over 10,000 American millionaires found that 94% live in middle-class or modest neighborhoods, not because they cannot afford better, because the math of an expensive neighborhood, higher property taxes, higher maintenance costs, higher social pressure to match neighbors' spending, does not produce a return they value relative to the cost. 80% of the millionaires surveyed did not receive any inheritance. They built their wealth through income, saving, and investing, not luck or family money. The median car price they reported paying was $31,167. The top 3 vehicle brands among American millionaires were Toyota, Honda, and Ford, not luxury brands. 62% of everyday millionaires in Empower's 2025 study reported that they still budget, still shop deals, and still avoid extravagant purchases, even after crossing the $1 million net worth threshold.
The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a useful framework decades ago that remains statistically accurate today. PAWs, prodigious accumulators of wealth, and UAWs, underaccumulators of wealth. A janitor earning $50,000 annually who saves and invests consistently can be a greater PAW than a doctor earning $700,000 who spends to match the lifestyle expected of someone earning $700,000. The spending pattern determines the category. The income level does not. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest individuals in human history, has lived in the same house he purchased in 1958 for $31,500. He did not upgrade as his net worth grew into the hundreds of billions. He understood something that the status tax depends on people never learning, that the visible signals of wealth and the actual accumulation of wealth are not just unrelated, they are frequently inversely related, because every dollar spent signaling wealth is a dollar that stopped compounding toward building it.
Here is what looking poor actually purchases, expressed in numbers rather than philosophy. Someone who drives the $15,000 cheaper Honda instead of the BMW and invests that difference at 8% average annual returns over a 10-year ownership cycle, repeated across a 30-year working life, accumulates approximately $187,000 from that single category alone. One spending category, one decision repeated consistently. Not from a side hustle, not from a stock pick, not from any dramatic financial maneuver. From declining to pay $15,000 extra for a badge. Someone who buys a $399 quality coat instead of a $1,200 designer equivalent once every 3 years across a 40-year adult life and invests the $801 difference each time at 8% returns accumulates approximately $94,000 from clothing alone, a category most people do not even track as a wealth-building decision.
The Empower 2025 research on discretionary spending found that food delivery, streaming subscriptions, and rideshare spending, convenience categories closely tied to lifestyle signaling and avoiding the appearance of frugality, have increased between 8% and 13% year over year. Someone who chose visible convenience over invisible saving in just these 3 categories and invested the difference instead would accumulate a meaningfully different retirement outcome over a working career without changing their income by a single dollar. None of these numbers come from earning more. Every one of them comes from removing a single category of spending that exists exclusively to signal wealth to people who, statistically, are themselves financially overextended trying to signal wealth back. The math does not require sacrifice in the way people assume. It requires substitution. A Honda instead of a BMW is not deprivation. It is still a reliable car. A $399 coat instead of a $1,200 one is not deprivation. It is still warm. The product is functionally identical, only the signal is removed, and the signal was the entire cost.
Looking poor as a strategy does not mean depriving yourself of things you genuinely value.
It means auditing every recurring or large expense and asking one specific question. Am I paying for function, or am I paying for what this purchase signals to other people? Start with the largest visible categories first, because they carry the largest dollar impact. Vehicles, housing choices beyond what space and location genuinely require, and clothing brands are where the status tax concentrates most heavily. Before any purchase in these categories, identify the functionally equivalent option without the brand premium and calculate the specific dollar gap. That gap, invested rather than spent, is the actual cost of the status purchase, made visible instead of invisible. Apply the millionaire formula to check where you currently stand. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual income. Divide by 10. That is your expected net worth if your spending matches your earning appropriately. If your actual net worth falls significantly below that number, while your visible lifestyle looks comfortable or impressive, the gap between those two facts is approximately the size of your personal status tax. Reframe the social cost honestly, because it is real, and minimizing it does not help. Choosing the Honda over the BMW, the rental in a modest building over the luxury complex, the 5-year-old phone over the new release. These choices are sometimes visible to people who will draw conclusions about your success based on them. The research on actual wealth accumulation says clearly that this short-term social cost is paid in exchange for a long-term financial outcome that the people drawing those conclusions are statistically far less likely to achieve themselves. Automate the redirected money immediately before lifestyle creep absorbs it. The entire value of looking poor disappears if the money saved from a smaller status tax simply funds a different, less visible form of lifestyle inflation. The Honda instead of BMW savings only compounds into $187,000 if it is actually invested, not redirected into a nicer vacation or a bigger apartment that provides the same status signal through a different channel. The man at the gym in the 9-year-old Honda Civic with $2.3 million invested is not hiding his success out of modesty alone. He understands something the entire consumer economy depends on people never learning, that the visible signal of wealth and the actual accumulation of wealth compete directly for the same dollars, and every dollar spent on one is a dollar permanently removed from the other. Looking poor is not about pretending to be something you are not. It is about refusing to pay a premium for people to believe something about you that has no bearing on your actual financial security, your actual options, or your actual future. The BMW in the driveway, the designer logo, the curated vacation photos, none of it is wrong to want, but understanding that it is a choice with a specific, calculable cost made consciously rather than automatically is the entire difference between the person performing wealth and the person actually building it. Real wealth has never needed an audience. It has only ever needed time, and the dollars you didn't spend convincing strangers you already had it. This channel breaks down the quiet, boring, undramatic decisions that actually build wealth, not the highlight reel version. One video every week. If that's useful to you, subscribe. The information is free. The status tax never was.